Hello, and welcome back to Book Bites, the teeny tiny web series where we read you small snippets of books that we'd enjoyed and that you can find on Hoopla. Hoopla is, of course, one of our digital book platforms, and there you can check out 8 books a month, either audiobooks or ebooks. My name is Marilyn. I'm in youth services. You may have seen me at the front desk or wandering through the shelves putting books back. And I'm here today to share a little bit of The Nest by Kenneth Oppel. You can get this book digitally, but I have it physically because, as you might be able to see, it's autographed. Oh yeah. And this book also has illustrations by John Klassen. And you may know John Klassen from some of my other favorite books, like I Want My Hat Back, Sam and Dave Dig a Hole, and of course, Square, Circle, and Triangle. I was originally drawn to this book because the blurb on the back made me think of old stories about changelings. You may have heard that word before, but if you haven't, the myth of the changeling is that fairy mothers, now not like Tinkerbell fairies, they were not really nice fairies, fairy mothers would steal healthy human babies and replace them with their own babies, which would be too sick to live in the human world. And after reading it, it is a little like that, but it's also got its own twist on it, so it's something kind of new. So The Nest is about Steve. Steve is anxious all the time, but especially about his little brother Theo. Theo was just recently born, and he was born with a congenital heart defect, which means that he was born with something wrong in his heart that's nobody's fault. It was just the way it happened. And he's too sick and he's too small to be out of the hospital for very long. So not long after he was born, Steve is visited by what he believes to be angels in his dreams, promising that they can fix his little brother. All Steve has to do is agree to help them. So the snippet I'm going to read for you today is from just near the beginning, when Steve is first visited by these angels. The night after the wasp's sting, I could feel the nightmare coming on in my sleep, like a thundercloud gathering on the horizon. A dark shape assembled itself at the foot of my bed and just stood there, watching me. But then the most amazing thing happened. There was a sound, a kind of low musical trill, and with it, points of light. I knew because I looked. For the first time ever, I turned in my dream and looked. More and more tiny little bits of light surrounded the dark shape and landed on it, and the darkness started to dissolve and disappear, and I felt such relief. Suddenly, I was in a bright cave-like space, lying on my stomach, and in front of me was her voice. "We've come because of the baby," she said. "We've come to help." "Who's we?" I asked. "We come when people are scared or in trouble. We come when there's grief." I looked around at all the glittering creatures on the walls and in the air. "Are you angels?" "You can think of us that way." I stood up. I tried to look more closely at the angel in front of me. Her head alone seemed as big as me. It was a bit like standing before that huge stuffed lion at the museum, except the mane and whiskers were all light, and the eyes were huge, and the mouth never moved. She was magnificent, and I wasn't sure she had a mouth at all, but I was aware every time she spoke of something grazing my face, and of the smell of freshly mown grass. "Now," she said, "my first question is, how are you?" "Okay, I guess." She nodded patiently, waiting. "Everyone's worried about the baby," I added. "It's dreadful when these things happen," she said. "It's common, you know. There's some comfort in that. You're not alone in this." "No, I guess not." "And your little sister, how is she?" "She's a pain, as always." I was beginning to feel a little bit more at ease. Ah, yes, little sisters. "I don't think she really understands about the baby being sick. Really sick." "That's just as well. Your parents?" "They're super worried." "Naturally." "And scared." "Of course they are. Nothing's scarier than having a sick child, and one so newly born and so vulnerable. It's the worst thing for a parent. That's why we've come to help." "How can you help?" "We make things better." "You mean the baby?" "Of course." "No one knows what's wrong with him exactly." "We do." "Angels know everything?" She laughed. "Everything's a tall order, but we know enough to know what's wrong with the baby. It's congenital." "What does that mean?" "He was born with it. Don't you worry. I know you're a worrier. It's not something you can catch or get later in life. I wondered how she knew I was a worrier, but I guess angels knew all sorts of things without needing to be told. She said, "It's just a tiny little mistake inside him, and we can fix that mistake." "You can?" I said, with a rush of hope. "You know about DNA, don't you?" I remembered it from science. All the little pieces inside each of ourselves, like a spiral ladder that made us who we were. "Well," she continued, "sometimes the bits get mixed up. It's the tiniest mix-up, but it can lead to bigger problems. People are very complicated inside." "When?" I asked. "When can you do all this?" "Soon enough. You'll see." And then I woke up. And that was just a taste of Kenneth Oppel's The Nest. I hope you enjoyed it and that you can check it out for yourself. Thank you for checking out this episode of Book Bites, and we will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.